We will start.
Perfect, it's recording.
Okay.
All right. So I'm Lori Weidenhammer, and first of all, I just like a reminder for everyone to mute themselves, because otherwise it cuts into our feeds. So if everyone could just take a minute to mute themselves, that would be really helpful. And I'd like to welcome you all here. Thanks so much for coming. I'm Lori Weidenhammer, and I'd like you to welcome you to the second in a series of talks called The Gardens of Our Lives. And it's produced as a part of our residency, Victory Gardens for Diversity at Terra Nova Park. At the end of the talk, we can have some questions, and if you want to use the comments, I can start writing down some of your questions as we go. Thank you so much for being here. Lori Snyder and I live in Vancouver, so we're on the north side of the Fraser River, and we'd like to acknowledge our gratitude for the privilege to be here on the unceded ancestral territory of the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. But our residency is based on the south side of the Fraser River, and so we'd also like to acknowledge our gratitude for having the privilege to work on the unceded ancestral territory of the Kwantlen, the Musqueam again, Katsi, Semiahmoo, Tsawwassen, Kikite, and Coquitlam nations. The Musqueam name for Terra Nova is Spukpalux, meaning bubbling water, and that's referring to the gas deposits coming through the sloughs. Hi, welcome. Just another reminder to mute yourself as you join the meeting. Thank you so much. If you could mute yourself, that would be awesome. Great. Okay, take your time. Thank you very much. If you could mute yourself, that would be fantastic. Long before the original Victory Gardens, the Coast Salish who lived here for thousands of years were the first gardeners. Meadows and hillsides were burned to promote the growth of edible camas, which is a wonderful plant for native bees and butterflies. Camas beds were harvested sustainably and reseeded for future crops. Evergreen huckleberries were burned and pruned to make the plants more floriferous, which meant more nectar and pollen for bees and other insects, and berries for humans, bears, and other animals. We believe that through reparation and restoration, we can work together to protect and heal the land and all our relations. Lori also wanted me to share a quote from the Musqueam Nation. So this is the quote: "Our teachings and practices are part of who we are. They have persevered because of the wisdom and resilience of our ancestors and our intrinsic connection to our lands and waters. Our teachings are expressed in our manners and customs, in our day-to-day interactions, and in the respect we show to others and our work. When we are gathered together with our families and elders, we share teachings by listening, asking questions, being open to learning from others, and acknowledging what we don't know." That's the end of the quote. So that's a wonderful reminder to listen to the teachings. And with this, we give thanks to the Musqueam people for welcoming us on their territory. We will be working diligently to live up to our collective responsibility to honor and respect their protocols and homeland, to build relationships, and to engage meaningfully with their knowledge. Victory Gardens for Diversity is an artist residency project at Terra Nova Park. It's a whole year-long residency. It's based on the values that were used to create the first Victory Gardens in World War II. And the spirit of building resistance, self-reliance, and building community have had a rebirth in recent times with coping with this global pandemic. But surely, nothing has prepared us for the tragedy of the losses we're facing during these times and the continued loss of life from the racist brutality that we are witnessing and experiencing. During these times, we need to look to our healers and visionaries to help us move forward. And Lori Snyder is both a visionary and a healer. Through sharing her generous knowledge of plant medicines to all people of all ages, Lori is creating ripple effects of positive change in our community. Taste a little bit of this, she'll say to an elementary school child as she gives them some honey infused in rose petals. This is an experience that a child will never forget, and it will create a sense of wonder and a connection to nature for the rest of their lives. Gently, Lori teaches us to interact and connect with plants in healing ways. Why can't we plant fireweed in Riley Park Community Garden, she asks. I say, oh no, the bureaucrats won't like it. But then I realize that I can't let the bureaucrats dictate what we plant in our parks. And so now the fireweed gloriously is blooming right now in Riley Park, thanks to Lori Snyder. And so I welcome you, and please enjoy.
Beautiful. Oh my goodness, Lori, that is unbelievably gorgeous and amazing, and so grateful to the city of Richmond for hosting and helping to put this all together, and for all of you taking the time out of your day to be here with Lori and I. I'm so grateful for Lori Weidenhammer, who really is the one who started me on this journey of sharing and, you know, going into my heart and bringing that message forward. And, you know, just to remind myself all the time that really I'm just a messenger. You know, we all need to find our voices for those who do not have a voice, or have a voice but nobody's listening to. And you know, that can be our insects, our pollinators, the whales, the birds, the coyotes, even the rats here in our city. And yeah, I'm just really delighted. So I'm trusting we're pretty well have everybody here. It's just 10 after 1. And once I go into the presentation, it's harder for me to see if people are waiting to come into the room. So hopefully I won't miss anyone, or if you have a friend that's coming in late, you know, just message me and then we'll just go back in and make sure that I can bring them in. So with all of that being said, in this moment, announcements. I just want to acknowledge today is World Elders Abuse Day. So, you know, acknowledging our elders, how vital and precious they are, and that, you know, they hold so much knowledge and teachings, because they've experienced more than we have so far in our journey, and that we really need to be sitting at their feet and remembering these stories that we can pass on. And, you know, it would be one of the things that I've noticed is, like, if we think back in time 10,000 years ago, where is that history? Where is it 30,000 years ago, right? Like, that as people, we hold the history, right? And we need to keep that alive. So just wanted to acknowledge them. And in the chat, I put in a couple links where you can connect out to me. If you ever have any questions, please, you know, reach out, send me an email, send me a message through Facebook. And Swallowtail, I just want to put a shout out to Swallowtail, Chef Robin Court. She's just recently been filming me, and we put together a beautiful teachings so that you can actually hook into. There is a cost, I think it's $45 for that. So some of the teachings that I've been putting together, but also her teachings as a chef. And also what I would say, because people will, you know, ask me, oh, when are you doing a tour? You can organize one. If you like, you can organize. I think there's 6 of us that can be together in a park, as long as we're all have some space. And so if you organize 4 of your friends, then I would gift you the teachings. And again, you can send me an email for details around that. So I'm going to share my screen. Let's dive in. Let's meet some of our native plants. We're going to also meet some of our introduced species as we go through the slideshow. And, you know, so grateful for the natives here that have been, again, just holding that. And I'm not talking about the people, I'm talking about the plants. The plants are the one who really hold the wisdom, right? We learned through our environment. We learned by having our hands in the earth. We were observers. And what I would say to all of you is that when we go back in our history, we all have that indigenous knowledge within our own psyche, within our own DNA, within our bones, and that we can access that again. And I remember one time someone said, oh, I wish I'd listened to my grandmother more. You know, I don't remember any of this. And I said, but the plants do. The plants still hold the wisdom. Because how did we learn from them? Because we got quiet and we listened. We watched the animals. We watched what was happening around us so that we could be aware of what was coming. So, you know, I feel it's that time for us to really go back and find that knowledge and bring that back and bring it to ourselves and our family and our friends and to our children and our children's children. This is it's medicines and food that are growing here with us that we really need to tap in. And that being said, one other thing before I start the slideshow, what I'd like to share, here's my putty cat right here coming to say hi, is that what I find interesting in this time is we are still relying on other countries to feed us. And it's time for us to actually grow up and start to caretake ourselves the way that we know how. And what a gift that it brings us when our hands are back in the earth, we're growing our foods, we're preparing it, we're sharing with friends and neighbors and family, and how that actually helps to grow our heart, how the dopamine is released into the body, and it makes us feel really good. And with all of this time that we're in, to remember that for us to access our immune system, we really need to keep ourselves grounded. We need to stay calm, because when we're in that fight and flight, we can't access the immune system. So it's really, really important, and that we help others to find that calmness in the storm. Right? That we stay grounded and centered. And of course, one of the ways that we do is through breath. So for us to be practicing our breath, right? Us to be moving our bodies to clear the mind, for us to be sleeping well. So all of these practices around our well-being are incredibly important. And Aliza just came in, so welcome. And everyone else, I recognize some of familiar names. I'm super grateful that you're here, and some new friends as well. So let's share my screen and let's start this process and introduce you to some of the plants. Oh, which reminds me, Mrs. Brunn, my neighbor from Ireland, growing up in Squamish, was my first teacher, and she was the one who introduced me to all the native plants as we'd walk up the back trails to Alice Lake, Douglas fir, fireweed that Lori mentioned, the salmonberry, miner's lettuce, you name it. That's where I was first introduced to these plants. So I'm very grateful for Mrs. Brunn for feeding me and giving me this gift that is imprinted in my being. And my herb teacher was Don Olson, or is Don Olson. I still sit with Don sometimes. Super grateful for his mastery around herbal medicines and helping to anchor more of that wisdom that I could be sharing with you here today. So those are just a few of my teachers. I don't want to take up too much time to tell you about me. You can look on my site, and Lori just kind of gave you an idea of who I am and what I've been up to. So let's start. Here we go. And I'll put this on play. So we're looking more of this. So this is just some children's art. As Lori mentioned, I love going into the classrooms and to the schools, whether that's high schools, elementary schools. And this is a beautiful way for us to connect into the plants by slowing down and taking the time to look at the details of these different species that can start to actually show us something about them. And so that practice is another way that we get to know their personalities, because they're like us. They have some want to be in the sun, some want to be in the shade, hot, cold, wet, all of those things. And most of them want to live in community. And what are we doing with our plants these days, growing them? They're monocultures. They're not living in communities. So diversity of plants is really important, just like I would say diversity of insects, people, the human family. And so what's it doing? I was concerned this would happen. So my screen has frozen, as it does sometimes. And I'm going to have to just keep pushing buttons. I will tell you the next slide is a picture of, I wonder if I can get it to, see, I can't even get it to stop sharing. Here we go. Okay. Oh, something gave me, okay, thank you. So connecting into the weather, this is what I would share with you, is that this is a picture taken up at Big White. And, calling in the snow during the winter time, I think is really important. We've got to remember that we live in a rainforest. And so, around November, I'm saying to the kids or in my emails, ask for snow. And I know that, people are like, oh, I don't want the snow down here, and I don't have snow tires and all those things. We need the snow. We need that snowpack. We need to make sure we have enough water through the summer months. And for us to recognize that when the snow comes, it's an opportunity for us to slow down. Recently, I heard someone talking about, in a sound summit, the pace of nature. And I thought that was the most profound thing that I have heard, the pace of nature, because we are nature. And it made me think, how fast can we go? And, the fastest we can move is, running. And that, wow, we're going way too quick. So when this whole pandemic happened, there was a part of me that was, if I could even say the word, kind of excited, because I went, oh, we're all going to have opportunity to slow down, reevaluate, think about what our values are, what's most important, and to slow down this pace that we're running at that is actually making us sick. Oh, there it goes again. Is that going to work? Oh, there, I found a button that works. Okay, so first plant that I'd love to introduce you to is the Cottonwood. And this is an image that I took up at Rock Creek probably 5-6 years ago. Unfortunately, this beautiful Cottonwood is no longer here with us based on the forest fires that came through that area. And I think it's important, and one of the things that I've started to do as I'm wandering around the city and walking the neighborhoods is I'm starting to document our grandmother trees. And I feel that's so important. In fact, I feel it's important that we actually start to mark where we're seeing our native trees. So where are we seeing the Douglas fir, the hemlock, the spruce trees, with the cedar trees within our neighborhoods, and making sure that they're growing strong and healthy. As I'm witnessing here in Vancouver, I have already counted 18 cedar trees dying on these lands here. And as caretakers, as Lori shared and has written in the comments, that's part of our responsibility as the two-leggeds, that we're making sure that all the species around us are growing strong and healthy. So the Cottonwood has this incredible medicine and food in the bark that we can access. And one of the reasons I love the Cottonwood so much is she grows all around North America. So we can, as various nations and diverse groups around Turtle Island, we can all be accessing her incredible medicine. And the other thing that we need to be mindful is that we're actually making sure that she's still here with us, because she's actually becoming endangered. She grows along waterways, they're being cut down so people have better views of the rivers. And it actually affects the temperature of the river for the salmon to go up and spawn. So when the river is no longer shaded, that temperature is going to go up past 4 degrees. And so that's that place where we're doing that observation and we're paying attention and then finding our voices to say, no, you can't cut the trees down, because we have to ensure the salmon is here with us, right? Keystone species, not just for us, but for other species, particular, our orca whales. So you see how everything has an impact on us in the way that we're shopping and not caretaking the land. So this image is of her incredible medicine that we find in the buds. And we're going to find those starting probably November to about February, based on our having a cooler in spring. I was probably finding them up into March and April. You can see these are healthy buds. They don't have any black spots on them, so no fungus growing. And you can see the brown is the resin that's in these buds. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to infuse them into some kind of oil. Traditionally, they would have been infused into some bear grease. And now in the modern times, we're now using various types of oil. I will use any kind of oil except canola oil. Canola oil for me is not a life-affirming product because our body does not digest it. You know, it was used during the Second World War as a machine oil. So I really want to support products and industry that is life supporting. So what I'm doing here is in the oil, it's extracting out that medicine. And one of that medicines is the antimicrobial. It also has some salicin in there, which will work for pain relief. So just taking the oil after the plant material has sat in there for 4 weeks or longer. And what you want to do is make sure there's a little bit of room at the top of the jar, because as the plant releases the oil, the resin, the jar is going to fill up a little bit more with plant oil. And then I can strain it out, and then I can melt some beeswax and blend those two products together to make either lip balms or healing skin salve, right? And that's one of the workshops that I offer, is how to actually make your healing skin salve. So who else do we have here? This is just a beautiful image that I just want to remind everyone of, a beautiful book by Robin Wall Kimmer. If you haven't put that on your list for your reading, she wrote 2 books. The first one's called Gathering Moss, and the second one is called Braiding Sweetgrass. And the moss has a beautiful teaching about us living in smaller spaces, and caretaking the water, making sure that it's staying fresh and healthy. That's part of, again, our responsibility. And what I love about Robin's second book, in Braiding Sweetgrass, the 3 braids represent scientific knowledge, indigenous ways of knowing, and plant wisdom. So what we're doing, or what she's doing, is she's braiding those 3 disciplines together and showing how they all support each other, and how vital and important that the 3 of them be braided together versus us just looking at one particular system. And I'm not sure if I can play this. Let's see. Oh. The water, my friends. We have to caretake the water. And how important that is. And my friend came back from Australia not too long ago, and she said, Lori, I have solar panel envy and water barrel envy. So everyone's homes in Australia have solar panels as well as barrels, citrines gathering water, so they have enough water over the course of the season. And even though we have such an abundance of water, we really don't want to put pressure on our water reserves, as we're all going to be growing more food here in our cities. So we really need to think about how we're going to start to collect that and, you know, preserve it and keep it strong and fresh. So this beautiful plant next is the yarrow. And even though she is not one of our native plants, she's been here for such a long time that she feels like one of our native plants here. And you know, she's been growing all over the planet for a very long time, dating back to about 62,000 years ago, found in a pouch in a Neanderthal man in northern Iraq in the Kandahar caves. So, you know, wow, I love this little piece of knowledge to know that as humans, as the human family, that we have been navigating with this plant for such a long time. And you can see as she's just coming out of the earth that she looks like a feather or another fern, and that I can use this as a food, adding into my salad. She's got a little bit of bitterness, which is really going to help with digestion, getting the gallbladder producing bile to help break down fats, because we need to eat fats for our brain. We can make beautiful teas with her, and here's her beautiful flower. Those teas can help with cramping or with pain. How else can I use it? I can put her in vinegars, so apple cider vinegar to extract out her mineral components, so that I've got my nutritive vinegars, putting into my salad dressings, or having a little bit, say half an hour before I have some dinner. That might be a teaspoon in a glass of water. And again, that's really going to help with the digestion. And here's a macro shot, and you can see her beautiful little pollen inside these tiny, tiny little flowers. So beautiful. She's also an important pollinator plant, and also she attracts the herbivore insects that will, no, the carnivore insects that will eat the herbivore insects that are coming into your garden eating your lettuces. So sweet alyssum is an important plant in the garden, as well as the yarrow. And so I highly recommend her. Now, this one is the horsetail. And we have a variety of horsetail, and Robin Court and I were just looking through. She's the one with swallowtails, and we just did this whole series on doing some medicinal teachings that you can check out her website that I've just done recordings with. You really need to know your horsetail. So that would be my biggest thing that I would say to you, to make sure it's not a marsh horsetail, that it is the field horsetail. And I'm going to have to do a little bit more reading, because I was saying to Robin, we're not actually eating her. What we're doing is we're putting her in the vinegar to extract out the silica. And that is an important mineral for our nails, our bones, our teeth. But the other thing that I'd mention about minerals are really important for the endocrine system. So to really keep our hormones healthy and strong, and we're not having these ups and downs, whether, you know, we're still menstruating or going through our menopause, we really need the minerals to help support the health of our body. And that's what I would say about native plants, or any of our plants, is that they all have different affinities to different organs in the body that really help us to stay strong. And here's an image that I've chopped that up and put it in the apple cider vinegar. I'm usually doing 1 part plant to 2 parts vinegar. I'm going to let it steep for at least 4 weeks. Then I can strain out the plant material, and now I've got these beautiful minerals in the vinegar. So quickly, I just want to, I mean, I could always talk so long about dandelion and introduce species. that came about the 1600s. So on some level, she is one of our native plants because she's been here for quite a while. And what I would say as a guest on this land here on Turtle Island is she has something to offer. And I think that's an amazing teaching that, you know, I was reading in Braiding Sweetgrass from Robin Wall Kimmer when she was talking about the plantain, and hopefully we'll get down to the slide, which I think is slide 80 on my reel here, where she talks about, you know, as a visitor, as a guest on these lands, how do we show up and offer something? How are we also good caretakers? In this particular plant, everybody can eat it, unless you have allergies to latex. And we know she's an important pollinator plant. I remember someone once saying there are certain insects that only land on the dandelion. So we need to make sure we're not putting those poisons in or on her. And those poisons, we've been led down a garden path where there's no garden, by buying something that's actually detrimental to our health. And even though maybe we don't see that effect in the immediate, we see it in the long term. If we can remember that beautiful book, Silent Spring by Rachel Carson, who was reminding us that when we're using poisons, there is an effect to the whole ecosystem here. And, you know, the way that we're going to move and navigate through these times that we're in is we are going to need to get back into the reverence of Mother Earth and recognize that she is caretaking us, she is providing for us. And this plant also is coming with that message. I will help you to live a long life. I will nourish you, give you vitamins and minerals, food for you, medicines for you. So as I said, every part of this plant is edible. The flower is full of vitamin D. My friends, get outside every day between the hours of 11 and 1. And based on your skin color, you know, anywhere minimum of 20 minutes. If you have a darker tone to you, probably need to sit out there a little bit longer, you know, expose your arms, put your face in the sun and take in that vitamin D. Research is showing that people with cancer have low amounts of vitamin D. We know with the virus, it's important that our vitamin D be stored in our body. So, you know, this is one way we get it, but we also get it from the sun. And that's free. It's free for us to actually access. And how does it make you feel when you sit out in the sun? It makes you feel so good. It's not about burning the skin. It's just about taking in the rays of the sun. So I put the petals here into honey, makes it taste like bananas. So beautiful. So changing that flavor of the honey, we can batter them up, fry it up. We can, oh my goodness, it's endless what we can be doing with the dandelion petal. The seeds, we can put into nut milks and the seeds can help clean out the colon. The other thing that I was doing at the end of the season of the dandelion, I was collecting the seed heads when they were still closed. And you can see the difference between a seed head when it's closed versus a flower head when it's closed. The flower head will have a little bit of yellow sticking out. This one, the seed head, will be white. And I collected them so I can move them somewhere else. Because as I know, people are going to be becoming more interested in dandelion. We're going to really need to grow more dandelion as we're starting to access it as a food and medicine. The roots, I clean them up, chop them up. I can roast them. I can eat them raw. I can eat them with my roasted vegetables. I can dry them out, grind them as a coffee substitute, make teas or coffee, like a coffee-like drink. If you look up a TEDx talk called Dandelion, it's going to actually substantiate what my herb teacher, Don Olson, told me over 15 years ago, that this plant is known to help kill cancer cells. So the University of Windsor has now substantiated that. So there's that braid of us knowing that this can actually be helpful. Will it kill all cancer? No, that's not necessarily the case. Many people who've come out on my walks have told me that their mother, their grandmother, their auntie, someone in their family has been eating this plant up until their 90s, living good, long, strong lives. The The root has an affinity to the liver, and the leaf has an affinity to the kidneys. So get to know your dandelion. And again, I could tell you more, but I really want to make sure that we cover a lot of ground today. And somebody's calling me right now, and I'm going to say, please text me because I want to be here with you. This is witch hazel, so one of the first spring flowers. Some varieties are incredibly fragrant, unbelievable. You think you're in the tropics. And we can make a beautiful medicine from the twigs and the leaf, not the leaf, the bark. And this is an astringent, so it's really good for skincare. We've got our beautiful little wild chickweed, which is another beautiful wild plant that's come. Please eat her. Don't pull her out of the garden and throw her away. Get to know the chickweed. Make sure you identify your plants. That will go back to that at the end. I'll just quickly mention 2 books, and then maybe Lori could even put them in the chat. One is The Boreal Herbal by Beverly Gray. And she'll really show and teach you when best to harvest your plants and how to make some of these beautiful medicines. And the other one is Plants of Coastal British Columbia. And that's Pojar and McKinnon. And Nancy Turner, a beautiful spirit who has done so much incredible work to help, help anchor this incredible knowledge, really contributed a lot to this book. So get to know your chickweed, make sure you ID your plants, and so that you're eating the proper one. Stinging nettles, I've got it growing alongside my house. We need more of that growing here in our cities. One of the things that I'm really reminding everyone, please, let's start growing this in our gardens, out in the front of our boulevards, down our back alleys, on the edges of parks, so we can all access foods and medicines. We really need to leave the wild plants up in our forests for our bears, cougars, wolverines, all of those incredible species that are living beside us here. And so let's bring them into our garden. This is one of the superfoods, incredible spring green to help clean out the body, get the circulation going, bring lots of nutritive value, vitamins, minerals, unbelievably delicious. The more you cook it, the more minerals you're going to access. These pictures were taken over on Pender Island. So, we need to protect spaces around our city that can be wild. I love what Lori was sharing, how her backyard garden has become wild. I'm seeing some wild spaces around the city because, people haven't been mowing their lawn. I'm like, leave it. Let that be wild. We need to have that. It's not about always having everything manicured and all lined up. We need those wild spaces for beautiful plants to come and grow with us. And of course, what I love about the stinging nettle is those little stingers being stung by them remind me when I was a kid. And, anytime I can have that moment that transports me back to that time, I'm always grateful for. And in this image here of the, you can see those little barbs there, the little stingers, they're full of formic acid. And in some of the research, it's actually saying it helps to release serotonin in our bodies. So even though it stings and it's uncomfortable, it's actually good for the body. As I said, we can use it for places where maybe we have arthritis happening, and we would actually whip the branches on our skin and have it sting us to get the circulation happening. And I always harvest in my bare hands. And there's a couple reasons why I do that. One, I want to get to know the plants. It's about relationships, right? Responsibility, reverence, respect, and who am I missing? Reciprocity. So the other reason I want to do it with my bare hands is that it tells me when I need to stop. because at some point my hands are buzzing so much that I can't pick another stalk. And we need to have these practices, and I'm not suggesting that for you. I need to know when to stop, because in the human experience, we can be greedy. I can be greedy. So I really want to make sure I'm only taking what I need. This is part of the honorable harvest, that I'm not taking more than what I can caretake when I get home. What can I process? You know, I'm only taking enough for me and my community, my family, and that I'm ensuring that there's enough for other species and other people to actually have access as well. English daisy, let's have a diversity in our lawns, right? Not just grass. Let's have the English daisy in there. Let's have some plantain, some dandelion, false dandelion, chickweed, landcress, all those beautiful little wild weeds, and have that diversity. And this particular one, we can eat the flower, we can eat the stem and the leaf. You know, we can put it in our salads, into our soups. It's quite a beautiful flavor. It's got some beta carotenes in there. And that little flower, I will infuse in the oil, and then I can use it for sore muscles like an arnica. And beautiful. Strawberries. We never think about strawberries being one of our native plants here, and we have 3 species of strawberries that grow here along the coast. And what I'd also say to you is there are, I believe, 23 different types of berries that grow here on the coast. And what we can do with the strawberries is we can harvest her leaf prior to the berry coming. And this is high in some iron and vitamin C, and we can make beautiful teas. And please remember, when you're making a tea, that your leaf is completely fresh or it's completely dry. So there is a chemical process going from a fresh product to a dried leaf. So we want to make sure we're not using it when it's still wilting. May cause upsets with your stomach. So completely fresh or completely dry. And so do a little pruning with the leaves, you know, dry them or use them fresh. That's going to send down more roots. It's going to also send out some more leaf that's going to take in some more carbon. So a little pruning is always important for our plants. And those beautiful wild strawberries, they have so much flavor to them. Not like these ones we're getting from California, which is coming a long distance. We can be growing lots of strawberries in our gardens. And the other thing, this is that reminder that we actually start to eat in season, that we're following the rhythm of the sun. We are a biological organism that is impacted by the sun like every other organism on the planet. So what happens when we're eating out of season? How does that impact our health? I'm really curious. The other is, how does it impact us when we are eating the foods of this land? Does it help us really tap in to the teachings, like our Indigenous brothers and sisters of this land who really know it well? Because I feel that will take us deeper into this relationship where we could actually really say, this is my home because I understand it. I caretake it. I love it as deeply as the people of this land have loved and caretaken for as long as we know for them to be here. So, and strawberries also can help with allergies. Very interesting. There's research out there on actually helping with allergies, unless you have an allergy to strawberries. And unfortunately, I can't eat them right now. Okay, so how are we doing? I also want to do with time, just looking at time. Okay, we're going until, what time are we going until? 2:30. So we got lots of time. So we're doing good, right? Everybody's doing fine. Okay, good. This is our flowering red currant, unbelievably important pollinator plant. And look at those blossoms, unbelievable. And in some of the traditions on the coast, they say if people pick the flower, it will cause the weather to rain. So I don't know, maybe everybody's been picking lots of these flowers this year because, you know, we're all learning about wild harvest and such. So anyways, just sharing that little piece of information. I got to tell you this story. I love this story. I went into one of the elementary schools and they had this incredibly large flowering red currant. And we noticed a hummingbird that was coming every time I was out there with the kids. So I reminded them, because I know what little girls are like. We love to pick flowers. I still love to pick flowers. And, you know, we want to pick them and make little fairy houses or take them back to our teacher. So I was reminding the kids that if we pick this flower, there is no food for that hummingbird, right? The hummingbird can't go to the grocery store, and we've got to make sure that this food is here. So I said, what are you going to say when you notice someone else picking the flowers? And the kids were like, we're going to tell them no. And I said, okay, that's one way, but how about we let them know that it's a food for our pollinators? You see, there's a difference from saying no to giving education. And what I found amazing when I finished my time there with the school, because I went through 18 divisions, so over 600 kids that I had the opportunity to teach. At the end of that 2 months, they had not picked the flowers. And so it made me realize the more we are educating each other, that we can do this, that we can really make sure our whole ecosystem is strong and healthy. Salmonberry, the salmonberries are out, and what a beautiful gift she is. And, you know, something that Lori reminded me not too long ago about the phenology, right? Where we see this relationship with species. When one goes into bloom, other species show up, right? Or the salmon start their spawning. So we don't really need a calendar. We just need to observe what is happening around us. And in that observation, we start to see what is missing, that we then need to ensure that we don't completely lose it. And this helps me to remember to be mindful. So my partner loves to harvest some salmonberry. We have some growing in our yard. And last year we noticed there were very few flowers and fruit. So we didn't do any harvesting at all. We really wanted to make sure that there was enough food for the birds. And so again, there's that opportunity for us to, you know, take a break, find another berry to harvest, like that beautiful Himalayan blackberry that we all need to access more, and then ensure that these other berries are still here for the bird population. And there she is with my camellia in my garden. Not the best picture, but I liked how the two colors came together. And there's her berries in yellow, orange, red, and black, and just such an incredible gift of abundance. And the garden that I'm caretaking, that Lori started 7-8 years ago up at Moberly Arts and Cultural Center in South Vancouver. Oh my goodness, Lori, you got to get up there and get some of those berries. There is so many right now. I'm usually, every time I'm up there, I probably eat about a cup of salmon berries. And please, everyone, come and see this garden and see really how you don't need that much space, how much berries, medicine, pollinators that you can grow, and have that diversity there. And yeah, she's just abundant right now. It's really just a gift. Up at the Moberly garden, Medicine Wheel Garden, that I'm now caretaking, we have some beautiful wild plum, or Indian plum, and this is her flower, so one of our native plants. And this picture was taken at one of the schoolyards, and wow, how prolific that she can be. And this is her little berry in the, you know, the yellow stage, and then later she's going into this beautiful purple stage. Doesn't have a lot of flesh to her, The pit is fairly large, and they're just small berries, probably the size of my thumbnail. And but quite delightful. I'll take a little handful of them in that clutch there, and then be mindful that the pits, you know, you're putting, you know, spitting them all over. You might grow some more of the wild plum. You need a male and a female to actually get the fruit production. And you can't tell the difference between the male and the female until you actually smell the flower. I have lots growing underneath my the bushes there. So come and see me. Let's make arrangements. I'll dig some out, and you can put that in your garden. And then what I would say is I leave the ones at the top of the tree so that the birds have their food. And then sometimes I let them dry, and I get this beautiful dried wild plum that when I'm coming out to the garden again, that I can do some snacking on. So that's our wild plum, or what had been referred to as Indian plum or Osho berry. Sorry, I'm terrible in all my Latin names. I should have Lori come on each one and say the Latin name if I haven't said it there, if everybody's interested in Latin names. This is our Oregon grape, Mahonia aquifolium is the tall one. Beautiful flowers early in the spring, and a great pollinator plant. This color yellow in Chinese traditional medicine is an indication that we're going to start to caretake our liver. Yellow is in association to our liver. So early spring is when we can do those liver cleanse. Not after New Year's Day. It's too cold. It's in the spring that we can do the liver cleanse. And we can eat those flowers, but just remember, if you eat the flowers, then you don't get this incredible berry, very sour, super high vitamin C. Anytime you're eating food that's sour, this is an indication of vitamin C, which is important for our muscles, our heart, our immune system, for building collagen, and to give us energy. And I'm going to collect those berries that I will mention. The rats will not be eating these berries. They are very sour when they're fresh and raw. But when you cook them up and make a beautiful jar of jam or jelly or sauces, unbelievable flavor. It's kind of like Concord grape jelly, just stunning. And what's beautiful about the aquifolium, the tall Oregon grape, is it could be an amazing cedar hedge, not cedar hedge, hedgerow for your, to build your fence. So we can get out of these fences and we could actually start to do hedgerow. So having a diversity of wild plants and our berries and medicines. And because she has a leaf that's like a holly and she's prickly, it sort of has this, you know, message. You have to ask permission to come in. So she works as a protector. We can get dyes from her bark and her root. We can get medicine, which is really good for the gallbladder and the liver. We can make teas from her leaf. We can use that to wash our face. It can help with acne and psoriasis and other skin challenges. So we get so much benefit from this incredibly beautiful plant, which is the Oregon grape. And this one is our native thimbleberry. That leaf looks like a Canada maple leaf. Beautiful white flowers and the most incredible fragrant berry I've ever tasted in my life. It really is just out of this world. And again, we could be growing this around the boulevards and down the alleys and, you know, on the edges of parks, so we can all access her incredible food as a food source. This one is your Uva ursi, also known as bearberry. Say that a few times quickly. And she has this beautiful little berry that is edible, not the best tasting. I've never cooked her, so I can't tell you what that might be like when she's actually cooked. And this is a very potent medicine for the urinary tract. If we get an infection there, we want to do a cold water infusion. We don't want to use her for long periods of time because it could actually irritate the kidneys. So what I would say when you're getting to start using plant medicines, start with ones that are really gentle on the body. So for a tract infection, you can use cranberries with no sugar. You can use the corn silk of fresh corn and make a tea. And that will actually work very well to help with it, bladder infections and urinary tract infections. And also plantain, the frog's leaf, or Plantago major. And this is a beautiful ground cover and also incredible pollinator plant. And look who's here, one of our bumblebees who gifted me about 10 minutes one spring day to take some beautiful macro shots. I had these little cameras that I could put on my phone, and look how she's got a little bit of pollen on her, and oh my God, she's on my grape hyacinth, and I just love this picture. It's really one of my absolute all-time favorite pictures. Red elderberry, grow it in your yard, and you can make some beautiful cordials with her flowers. If you use the berries, they must be cooked, and all parts of this plant other than the flower are actually poisonous, other than when the berry is cooked. So the other elderberry that I would mention is the blue elderberry that really wants a dry, warm site to grow. That would be a great plant to be growing, and elderberry is high in its antiviral properties and makes incredibly beautiful cough syrup and such. I don't see a lot of red elderberry growing around our city, so again, it's great that we're still making sure that what little plants we might actually have, that they're there for our pollinators. So grow them in your garden. Bleeding heart, wow, so incredibly beautiful. Again, one of our native plants that loves to be under the shade, on edges. You know, I notice her on the paths going up to Pacific Spirit Park and parts of the trails. I also see that, what's it called, poor man's orchid, that's kind of crowding her out. And that's that reminder for me that as caretakers, as Lori was talking about earlier in the introduction, where we were tending those berry patches, we were tending those medicine patches. So, you know, take 3-4 minutes of your day and just pull out some of that poor man's orchid so that it's not encroaching on the bleeding heart here. Pollinator plant, we can make a medicine with the root. It's a tonic, so it helps the whole body system. We can make flower essences, and I just did a workshop yesterday on flower essences. So it's the vibration of the flower that we're doing with a solar infusion with the sun, and they're helping with our emotional state. So maybe some of you have heard of Bach flower remedies and rescue remedy in particular, which can not only be used with us, but can be used with our pets when they're having trauma. We can also use them with our plants. And one of the things that I found out about this incredible little plant, and let's see if there's another image here. No, it didn't show, but it's just going into seed right now. And what happens is the seeds drop and the ants actually take those seeds back to their nest. So the ants are moving the plant somewhere else where it's going to grow, because you'll notice on these tiny black seeds a little white dot that is full of fatty acids that the ants are eating. So that becomes their food source. But it's that reminder that the ants are moving the seeds. So we need to be like the ants, the bears, the birds, the squirrels, and we need to help move the seeds as well, so that we're ensuring that the plant species are growing strong and healthy around us. This is a beautiful viola, and I have tons growing up at the Medicine Wheel Garden, and I gladly dig some out for you and share. That's part of what I love to do with that particular garden, is that wherever there is an abundance of plants, or if we can be gathering the seeds, I really want to share them outward in our communities. These flowers are delicious. You could paint them with a little bit of egg white and put a little bit of sugar on them, powdered sugar, and decorate your cupcakes and cakes for, you know, special occasions. So just a beautiful cover crop that we can be growing instead of grass in sort of those shaded areas. The evergreen tips of Douglas fir, the hemlock tree, the spruce tree, even our Norwegian spruce, which is introduced species, pine trees. Please make sure you're identifying your conifer, that it is not the Pacific, yew, as that has some, it can be toxic to the body. So you really want to make sure you're identifying them. And what I'm doing is I'm harvesting those beautiful green tips. I never take the leader. That's that one tip that's going to continue to grow that branch outward. So I'm always taking from the sides. And again, I want to do the honorable harvest. I can make beautiful teas. I can make jelly jams with them. I can infuse her in vodka and make a beautiful cocktail. I don't actually drink, but I'm just letting you know what you can do with it. And then what else? Oh, honey. We can put it in beautiful honey. And the honey is going to extract out its beautiful fragrance. Honey is really good for when we have a sore throat. Please remember, when our body is communicating, it has this incredible wisdom to let us know that we need to eat more vitamin C, that we need to drink lots of water, and we need to rest. And if that's one thing I could say about this virus, is it's really helping us to be more mindful how we're actually spreading our germs, but also listening when the body's saying, oh, I really should stay home today. I'm not well. I feel like I need to caretake myself. And when we slow down and caretake ourselves, that's our self-love, right? That's saying, I love myself enough that I'm going to slow down, you know, get my vitamin C, take the day off, and just nourish my body and my soul and my spirit. And again, we can slow down that pace. Two things I read the other day. Knowing the land is resistance, and play is resistance. And we need to play more, my friends. So the beautiful fir tips, sour. So beautiful vitamin C here. Not the best shot, but this is Miner's lettuce. I just put some in the garden. I'm hoping she's gonna grow more and I'll have more. And beautiful early spring green. Again, that indication, time to change our eating, moving out of all the breads and cheeses and meats that we've been, and dried fruits that we've been eating through the winter time. And now we get into the light spring greens as the light changes, and we start to follow that rhythm. Mock orange, I'm starting to see it in the neighborhood. She is unbelievably fragrant, beautiful, beautiful, tropical fragrance. And when you're smelling those essences of plants, you know, that's just opening us up, right? It's just feeding our soul. And in Diana Kruger's work, Call of the Forest, she talks about the hawthorn flower. She's a biochemist, and a classical botanist. And she says just by smelling the hawthorn flower, it opens up the left ventricle in the heart. So we know from, you know, forest bathing, going out, smelling the aerosols, you know, really help our lungs, our immune system. So, you know, do those walks around the neighborhood, do find those beautiful fragrant flowers and take that time and to smell them. And you could harvest a few and make a foot steam bath, right? And do some steaming and gifting your feet, you know, like what a gift these feet that take us to so many places, to take that time to sit and acknowledge these parts of our body that, you know, gift us so much to observe and witness the world around us. So the mock orange, an incredible pollinator plant as well. Beautiful skunk cabbage. Love the smell of this beautiful plant. And I was just down in Renfrew Ravine, and I must have missed the flowers, but these leaves are incredibly big. I was like, wow, they're so happy down there. Important plant, again, for all types of insects. You can get a food from it. You really need to know what you're doing. I've not ever used it as a food. You know, the bears would dig up the roots that would help with their gallbladders. So, you know, a lot of times we learned about particular plants by observing bears. But I would say this is a really strong, potent plant that I wouldn't necessarily use as a food source. But again, we just want to honor her and make sure that she's here with us. And she's very ancient, you know, has been here a really long time. And again, we want to honor her to be here. Some beautiful wild mountain blueberries. Did some macro shots. This was a couple summers ago. I went up, you can drive right up to the top of the mountain up on Mount Washington, found these beautiful fields of wild blueberries. And, you know, you feel like you're at the top of the world. It's just stunning up there. And, you know, blueberries we can grow in our gardens, really beautiful plant to have, important for our brain. Color is important for antioxidants. And, you know, you buy them in the supermarket, they're super expensive. They're coming long distance. We can be growing these in our gardens. And where I live here in East Vancouver, I have a really small garden. So I'm not growing carrots and potatoes and tomatoes. You know, they're fairly inexpensive plants, but the blueberries and the raspberries and the currants, and I've got some rhubarb in there and a little bit of strawberries. Like that's what I'm putting in my garden. I also have a little bit more time because I don't have to caretake them and plant those seeds every day. So, you know, really consider what you are growing that's going to work for you and family in terms of time, and what is it that you really love to eat that you would grow in your garden. Here's that beautiful fireweed that Lori mentioned at the beginning in her acknowledgement. And we want to make sure she's here with us. This is a pioneer plant. She's going to be the one who's going to show up first after the earthquake, after a forest fire, after, you know, the logging. So we want to make sure her seeds are in the earth so that that process can happen naturally. Everything grows up underneath her. She is there securing the soil, protecting it from the sun. We can get a beautiful food from her, and the first spring growth, we can actually eat those shoots. We're going to peel off her outer skin, and it's like eating celery. It's really soft and juicy, which just reminds me, I got to go do some harvest and get some leaf. Makes beautiful teas. We find her on the circumpolar region of the planet. So many nations, you know, have a relationship with the fireweed. We can harvest those flowers and make incredible pink jelly out of this world. It's just incredibly stunning. We can use the stalks in the fall for fiber making, so making nets and ropes and weaving baskets. And then we can dig up the roots and use it for a medicine. She has anti-inflammatory properties specific to the prostate gland. So, wow, and magnificent plant, you know, again, that reminds me of my childhood. And this is around the carving pavilion at Britannia Community Center. And I was asked to help put some plants in there and design that garden. And when after we spread the seeds in there, she just took off like crazy. And Ian was a little bit over the top going, oh my God, she's really taken over the garden. And I was like, she just needs to be here, right? We really need to honor her. And now we find her at Riley Park, and I've got a little bit up at Moberly. And yeah, she'll take over the space, but let's remember that in that taking over, we now need to get in and make sure and ensure we have some energy for and some space for other plants. So that's that caretaking. Someone's phoning me. Like, my phone never rings. I'm just going to let it ring in the moment instead and carry on. So let me show you some more pictures. Here's a macro shot of her flower. Wow, just incredible beauty. When we're looking at flowers, you know, again, it makes our hearts sing in the gift of creation, of design. Oh, sorry, that's my daughter calling downstairs. So anyways, I just hung up on her. So she's gonna go, why is Mom being so rude? Here's another one of beautiful bees. Couldn't help but put pictures in there because I love bees. I still need to get to know them more. And then here's the Plantago lanceolata, also known as white man's footprint. And common name is Plantain, a beautiful naturalized plant that has brought so much medicine for us. What a gift she's offering us. And I want to show you some more images. Here's what is referred to as frog's leaf. The leaf is rounder in her structure, and at the back of the leaf, or you can actually see through these leaves, you can see there's this deep ribbing. So very strong ID point in ensuring that you're finding the right leaf. And when she's smaller, she's great to add into our salads. We can put it into the oils, so dry her up, chop her up, and put it into the oils to make your healing skin salve. So antimicrobial, very soothing for the skin to help repair when the skin has been broken. These seed stalks are food sources that we find in the late summer, early fall that help to clean out the colon. And then another way that we can actually use her is as a spit poultice. So this is an important plant that we want to make sure that the kids know. We find it always in the grass, all around the schoolyards, you know, community centers. And what we're going to do is chew the leaf to release the enzymes that's going to help to neutralize the poison of that wasp sting, bee sting, spider bite, mosquito bite. So this is the frog's leaf or plantain that we want to get to know. So don't pull her out, eat her, or make some medicine. Beautiful purslane, just love her, high in omega-3s. What an incredible plant to be feeding our brain. And I love that there's a little spider here. So remembering, you know, the teachings of the spider, grandmother spider, the weaving of our connection, that we all are connected. And here's a word that I'd like to remind you or bring into your consciousness, your awareness, is ecological consciousness, which I gleaned from the David Suzuki butterfly pollinator manual. as I'm one of the rangers with the foundation. And I love this ecological consciousness. This is when we experience ourselves in relationship to other species. So all of a sudden we're like, wow, I'm actually in relationship here. And when we experience that, what do we discover? We discover we're actually part of the ecosystem. We're not separate. Remember, we are a biological organism like all other creatures that are living. So we want those spiders, right? They're food for someone else. They're also eating those insects that are in your garden. So we want to make sure everything around us is growing strong and healthy. Some kids' artwork, I just thought, wow, this is so much fun, this movement of the trees. Again, I love the trees. We want to make sure that they're here growing strong with us. So really grateful for the water that's here right now. Okay, I'm just looking at time. So we're quarter after. Do we have lots of questions there, Lori? Should we stop there and go in there, or should we carry on? What's kind of the sense here?
Hi, Lori. I think that you can keep on going. The one question that we had was about that, we called it the poor man's orchid. Is that Himalayan Balsam, that weed?
Yes, yes,
okay.
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
I've seen, I think 2 versions of it, one with pink flowers and one with yellow flowers in the parks.
Yeah.
And so can you just pull it out by the roots then?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Easy.
Awesome. And then Kitty is asking, what about the value of oxeye daisies?
Amazing, beautiful, amazing food. That leaf is so delicious. So try her. You will have the most unique experience I've ever had with a wild green, is that particular green. She's beautiful, she's bright, she makes us feel good. And again, that word weed is just that it's a plant that's growing somewhere that nobody necessarily wanted. So, you know what, I think what I want to do is kind of just have a little conversation about weed. So weed is an old English word, W-I-O-D. That was its original spelling, which refers to small plant or herb. And what we've done is we've changed the spelling, but we've also kind of made it like, oh, that's a weed. And we put this negative connotation around it. Instead of going, just a sec, what is this plant telling us? What is it? Why is it showing up in all these disturbed places? Well, it's part of the succession. It's the first one to come in to start caretaking the soil, to make sure that we're not burning off all the microorganisms inside the soil, right? Because every time we till and move the soil, we're exposing all those beautiful microorganisms, which we need in our gut health, right? So 2 things, hands in the soil, and the research tells us it actually helps to release various chemicals, serotonin and that actually make us feel good. And the other is when we actually get them in our gut health, we get a diversity in our gut health. Now, what's interesting is we are not eating our local plants here, or we're not eating from our local gardens, so we're not getting those microorganisms. So we're actually becoming more, what's the word, fragile. The microorganisms that grow here in this soil are different than the microorganisms that grow in California and Mexico, but they'd be dead by the time they got here anyways. So this is another reason why we need to put our hands in the earth and start eating from our biome here, to put in our biome, right? We're like another little planet on our body. We're just trillions of little cells all gathered together, just like the human population on Mother Earth. So weeds are protecting the soil. They're doing aeration. That dandelion root is going at least 1 meter into the ground, so it's helping with making sure the water's getting down. It's a home for all kinds of insects. And over time, for instance, the dandelion, when it gets shaded out, it disappears. The other is when the nitrogen starts to come from wild peas or red alder or other nitrogen-rich foods, when the nitrogen comes in the soil, the dandelion disappears because it doesn't like nitrogen. So what's happening with the weeds, they're going to start that succession over a long period of time that takes us back to the forest. In the meantime, we could actually be eating them. And when we go back in our own history, 50 years, 100 years, 200 years, 5,000 years ago, we were eating those plants. So it's not like we haven't been eating them. They've always lived with people. We don't see them out in the wild. We see them on the edges going up onto those parks. We see them on the edges in the parking lot, but we don't see them deep in the wild. They grow where we are. So, you know, I've been really saying to people, eat your weeds. Get to know your weeds. They're going to be full of more nutritional value than the conventional foods we're growing, possibly better than the organic foods that we're growing, and probably on the same level as biodynamic foods, because biodynamic foods are very much working with the quality of the soil, because the soil feeds the plant, which then feeds us. So weeds are so important for our diet, and they're free. I don't know about you guys, like, you know, I'm like, wow, I've been spending less money over this whole pandemic. My bank account is growing. I'm recognizing there is nothing I need other than good food. And here's the other thing that I'd say about eating the weeds. The more you actually eat those wild plants, it'll help you to remember who you really are, right? That we are caretakers. We need to get back into that relationship if we're going to ensure a healthy ecosystem, not just here, but all over the planet. You know, I remind the kids of a couple things. That the planet is my home, not Vancouver. The whole planet is my home. I remind them that I want to live until I'm 100. If I am going to be here, I want to witness where we're going, and I also want to be part of the solution. And that's part, my friends, why I'm doing what I'm doing, is because I care so deeply about the planet and all of the other insects here with us. I'm going to stop sharing the screen here because I feel, yes, Lori.
Okay, so we have some quick questions at the end.
Yeah.
One of them is, have you identified any other beneficial weeds? So just name some others. Another one is recommendations for options for container growing in apartments. And then how can we know when we're foraging wild plants in the city that they haven't been exposed to poisons or pesticides? Do you have any advice?
Okay, so the first one was, what are some of those wild weeds, right? Yeah. So we've got the dandelion, chickweed, plantain, who else?
Henbit.
Henbit.
Yep.
We have wall lettuce, what I call wild lettuce. Wow, that's a bitter. Whew, that's a good one. She's growing in my garden. Who else? Herbs Robert. Landcress.
Jan wants to know about Japanese knotweed.
We can eat the Japanese knotweed. And here's what I'll tell you about the Japanese knotweed. She's not going away, my friends. What you are seeing, whatever you're seeing, is the tip of the iceberg. That is only 10% of how big the root system is below her. And I tried to dig her up one time because she has an incredible medicine for Lyme's disease. So this is what I'm noticing, is I feel that plants show up around us when we need them. That's what my teacher says, right? Don Olson, and he worked with Ellen White, an elder who just passed a couple years ago from Nanaimo. And oh, there's a couple people who wanted to come in, and I don't know if that's too late. Anyways, So those wild, the plants growing around us are most likely our medicines. So Japanese knotweed is showing up as Lyme's disease is increasing around us. So let's eat her, let's honor her, and please let's make sure we're not putting her in the gardens. Like, I don't know why the garden centers, I don't know if they still have that for sale, but really that is irresponsible. In England, if you have Japanese knotweed growing in your yard, you will not sell your house. It will be so difficult because you need a backhoe to dig out that root system. It's like trying to dig out a tree trunk, but very strong medicine for Lyme's disease. And the Himalayan blackberry, what is she doing? She's growing like this everywhere because she's trying to catch our attention. She's like, guys, I have the best berries you could have that are free. They're the highest in iron content of all the berries. So go pick those wild blackberries this year. And as you're in there, cut her back so that she'll give some more canes, which will give us berries the following year, but also give room for our native blackberries. We get beautiful dyes that we can use for dyeing our hair, right? We got an incredibly strong medicine for diarrhea. And those big long canes, you know, you can take off the skin and you can use them for weaving. So here's a plant that's really asking us to take notice, for us to engage in, to build that relationship and stay strong and healthy. Okay, what were the other ones, Lori? What were the other questions?
Just talking about the whole pesticide thing, the Japanese knotweed is one of the ones that the city does use Roundup on. Yes. So you have to be very careful about harvesting that. Yes. And I have seen garden companies that usually don't have a logo on their van spraying something onto properties that I don't know what it is. So I think you do have to be careful about the pesticide issue use.
Yes. So always know the history of your site. For instance, my house is built in 1910. And this is what I notice around the city. And if anybody wants to take this up, I help you in any way, is to be an advocate for construction sites. They throw everything down around the building, and then they come in and they put the soil and the grass on top. So I'm not going to harvest anything right beside my house when I've started to build up the soil farther away from the house. Then I can be pretty sure that there's no lead in that soil. So history of site is important. How we clean the sites is we put mushrooms in, or we put in sunflowers, so we can do soil remediation with some of our plants. The bylaw in Vancouver is they're not allowed to use poisons or pesticides. Even the city isn't, unless they put that, so they actually have to have permission. They have to have a license, and then they have to put the signs up for that if they're going to use a Roundup. And the truth is, it's not going away, even with the Roundup. So part of me goes, how do we get in relationship? And my question would also be, is she somehow cleaning the water because she's like a grass? She takes up all the water over summer and then she lets it go. Like, what is she actually doing? So recognizing, we still have lots to learn from the plants, and poison to me is not the way that we're going to ever eradicate any of these weeds. So yeah, do diligent, know the history of that site. And the other thing I'd mention is plants never take the poison into the flower or the seed. So it never goes into the flower and the seed. Okay, yeah.
But you also have to think about neonics where they do, because it's a systemic pesticide. So in neonicotinoids, they do go into the seed and the flower, into the roots, everything. But also, maybe the last thing is just to mention a couple of things people can grow on their patio.
Oh, grow on their patio, yes. Well, Lori mentioned the Evergreen Huckleberry. I think she can tolerate some shade as well. So it doesn't have to necessarily be full sun. And so that's really beautiful to put in. So really, if you have lots of sun and you want some berries, you can be doing some blueberries. The only one you can't really grow is the salal berry. I'm sorry, we didn't talk about it. Salal is one of those plants that really needs the mycelium growing around her. So not so good in a pot, and it's not like I haven't seen her, but really she wants to be in the ground. And I would suggest in your gardens that you're lining your walkways with bark mulch, and then you could actually inoculate your mulch with mushrooms, and then you could start growing your own mushrooms. Someone once took me for a mushroom walk in Upper Squamish, and we were walking on reindeer moss, and that felt really uncomfortable for me. And I found out reindeer moss has a lifespan of 200 years, and it grows something like 1 to 2 millimeters a year. And so I was like, oh my goodness, this doesn't feel right that I'm walking on this. So I'm trying to walk on every rock or piece of wood, so I wasn't walking on the moss. And so again, it's that, how do we bring these wild plants, how do we bring our native plants back into our gardens, boulevards, back alleys, and on the edges of parks that we could then have as our harvesting corridors.
That's great. Thank you so much, Lori.
Oh my God, such a pleasure.
Fantastic. So much great information. And it's always great to hear you talk. Really appreciate it. And thanks everybody for coming. And we are recording it, and we will put it on the website, so you'll be able to recommend it to your friends.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Blessings, blessings. Ask for a little bit of sun, please, my friends, and reach out to me if you've got some questions. Check out my site, yeah, hopefully we can do some plant walks together up at the garden, at the Medicine Wheel Garden. Aliza, thank you again for organizing, and for Lori for being my moderator. I am so blessed to have some good people around. Please take care of each other, help your neighbors, and take care of yourself. Make sure you're breathing, drinking good water, eating well, moving your body, and keeping your heart open, right? The fear, when we're in fear, it shuts down the immune system. So, we're gonna be okay, my friends. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
You're so welcome. Yes, Krista, please use whatever you like. I'm just the messenger, my friends. Whatever I've shared is yours as well. This is not mine. It's, it all comes from the plants. And, we need to share as much as we can with each other, so that people can make good choices and be respectful of the earth. So yeah, please. Thank you. Even virtual garden walks. Yes. I haven't quite gotten to that place, but I'll look at that. You guys thank you. Thank you so much. I'm just trying to go into some of the comments to see what was going on. Oh, hi, Ian. So thank you. Thank you. You guys are the best. I hope that was super helpful. Beautiful. Oh, what was that spider? I think it was, what did they call? Daddy long legs, wasn't it? Oh, love those daddy long legs. So beautiful. Okay, I'm going to end. Otherwise, you guys won't go. Right? My recording. Okay, beautiful.
Yeah, tune in next month. We'll have another garden talk.
Yes, yes. Yes, come back and join us some more. All right, my friends. Take care. Sweet. Okay, I'm going to push end, Lori. And then I'll get the recording and send it over to you. Okay, so beautiful. Thank you so much. You're the best.
You're the best.
No, you are the best. The two Loris. Oh my goodness. Yep. Okay, ciao.
Bye.